However, the god of agriculture tells him that he managed to end an innocent human's life and send Dariel is a magicless loser whose dad went to get milk but never came back, so he was raised in the demon army, but one day the new demon general kicks him out, so he is forced to stay in a human village where he saves a girl and ends up unlocking his S rank abilities to become strongest human alive. Our story starts with Dariel, who is a 34-year-old soldier and has been loyally serving the Demon King's army ever since he was taken in as an abandoned baby and raised by one of the 4 great demon generals, Granbaza. Despite his long time of faithful service, he is stuck at the lowest of the low ranks in the army because he lacks the ability to use any magic. From the beginning of time, demons and humans have always fought wars against each other. The only difference between the two is that demons can wield magic, and humans can't. Not having any magical powers, Dariel has been looked down upon by the other generals as a disgrace from the beginning. After his guardian, Granbaza, retired, his son, Bashbaza, assumed his position. On the very first day as one of the 4 demon generals, Bashbaza fires Dariel from his position and kicks him out of the palace. With no home to go back to, Dariel wanders around aimlessly in the woods for days, with little food to eat and very little sleep, in hopes of starting a new life. One morning, he stumbles upon a human woman who is being chased by a monkey monster. His natural instinct as a soldier makes him defend the woman from its attack. With 0 magical skills to use, he tries to use his brute strength to hold the monster off, but he falls to the ground mid-charge due to his weakened and starved body. The monster punches him, sending him flying across. Dariel notices a dagger in the woman's fallen back, even though it is considered a taboo for a Demon King army soldier to use a human weapon. He grabs it and stabs the monster in its chest, copying the moves of a human hero he had seen before. Seeing the monster that attacked her killed, the woman thanks Daryl for saving her life. He tries to make his leave, but she grabs onto the back of his cloak and refuses to let go until he agrees to come back to her village. She wishes to thank him properly by inviting him home and serving him a meal. Tempted by the offer of a good, hot meal, Dariel agrees to go with her. Once they reach her home at Lux Village, she introduces herself as Malika. He even meets her mother and father, Invul, the village mayor. He decides to be very cautious around them because they will attack him if they discover he is a demon. He explains that he was wandering in the forest because his former employer's son had taken over the business and fired him, forcing him to immediately leave the lodgings provided by the company. Grateful for saving her life, Malika and her parents insist on him staying in their house. Knowing he has nowhere else to go and no one else to care about him, he accepts their offer. The next day, Dariel and Malika's father discuss jobs over coffee. As the village guild master, Invul suggests Dariel register with the guild and become an adventurer, whose job is to complete quests requested by the locals, ranging from collecting herbs to defeating monsters. He believes he is perfect for the job considering his physique. He gives him the guild registration form, making Daryl panic because only a human can successfully complete the ritual in the form. If he tries, he'll fail and reveal he is a demon. He tries to make excuses and run away, but Malika decides to help him out by forcefully poking his finger and putting a drop of his blood on the floor. To Dariel's complete shock, he successfully performs the ritual and gets registered in the guild. He discovers that he was a human all along and was merely brought up by the demon Granbaza and Demon Society. The next day, Invul gives him the first lecture about being an adventurer. He first teaches him about aura. It is something that all humans are born with, which they can use by infusing it into their weapons to fight. The best choice of weapon for an adventurer depends on their aura, which can be of 4 types: slash, sting, protect, and hit. Dariel picks up a sword first, which will test his slash ability. Invul gives him a large tree stump to slash across, saying slashing even halfway through is a good indicator of being the slash type. Despite not knowing how to use a sword, Dariel infuses his aura into it and makes a large slashing motion. The stump is cleanly cut all the way across, astonishing both Malika and her father. Next, he aims at an apple with a simple bow and arrow to test his sting ability. He hits the apple with tremendous force, causing it to fly back and raise a dust storm. After that, he is made to hit a boulder with a hammer, causing it to crumble into pieces. Finally, he has to block an attack from Invul using a giant iron hammer with a small wooden shield to test his protectability. Despite his strongest attack, Dariel successfully blocks it and sends him on his back. These results prove that Dariel has a perfect aura for all 4 types, something Invul has never heard of. Invul advises him to apply to the Central Guild, the top organization for any aspiring adventurer. His abilities are more than enough to get him in. and he will also write him a letter of recommendation. However, Dariel sees Malika's tears and asks to remain in the village. Shortly after, Invul introduces Dariel as a new adventurer to the villagers. Everybody happily welcomes him except for one green-haired teen guy who shames Dariel for being an old geezer. The teen is Geshida, the village's only current adventurer. Geshida asks him what his rank is. When Dariel reveals his E rank, Geshida makes fun of him and flexes his D rank, telling him not to get in his way. Invul apologizes for Geshida's cocky behavior and gives him his first assignment, collecting a bunch of medicinal herbs to complete a pile of requests that Geshida refuses to do. Dariel accepts. Invul warns him to be careful while looking for these herbs as there have been multiple sightings of a monster in the surrounding woods. Geshida accepted the assignment to hunt it 6 months ago but has been unsuccessful so far. When he shows Dariel the picture, Dariel and Malika realize that the monster is the same one that he killed and saved Malika from. With that, Dariel completed his first guild assignment without even knowing it. The next day, Geshida and Dariel go over quests with the guild master. The guild master makes Geshida thank Dariel for defeating the monkey monster for him. Embarrassed and frustrated for being upstaged by an E-rank adventurer, Geshida grabs a quest from the master's desk, despite his protests, and runs off to complete it. Dariel sets off into the woods with Malika by his side to show him around and guide him. He notices she seems very comfortable moving around in the forest, walking past thorny bushes and climbing up short cliffs. She shares that she also always wanted to be an adventurer. She was in the woods the day Dariel saved her because an old woman in the village was sick with a bad cold, but Geshida refused to go and collect medicinal herbs. Once they reach a hotbed for herbs, they start looking for their first medicinal herb, the hurts beyond belief. While foraging, she notices deer tracks and decides to hunt it down for dinner. They end up tracking a deer down, but its eyes turn a scary red. The monster deer jumps to a massive height and lands past them to fight another giant spider monster. Malika excitedly draws her dagger and runs toward them to try and kill both of them. Thanks to mostly Dariel, they kill both the monsters and bring them back to the village. Geshida runs off, crying like a baby because his spotlight was stolen again. Days pass, and Dariel adjusts to the village life well. The only problem is Geshida's unwillingness to work with Dariel. One day, Dariel arrives at the office to see Invul stressed. He explains that an urgent quest about a highly dangerous Blaze Death Scythe monster in the village's woods has been issued. Since it is very powerful, hunting it is limited to C rankers and above, but the village has none. Due to this, the quest has been handed over to the neighboring town's guild, which has already dispatched its adventurers to surround it. Geshida ended up seeing the quest when he was at the guild office and left quickly, making the guild master worry that he will try to hunt it down himself and interfere with the other guild's plans. Such an incident could cause conflict between the two guilds, and the guild master will be held responsible. Dariel volunteers to go and get Geshida back safely. Malika gives him medicinal supplies she made from the herbs they had collected before he leaves. Dariel makes his way to the area where the Blaze Death Scythe was spotted. He is surprised to see a large trail left by the monster and wonders where the other guild's adventurers are. He sees Geshida screaming and running toward him with the monster following him. Dariel holds his ground and prepares to fight the giant serpent, but it ignores him and continues following Geshida. Geshida tries to shoot it with an arrow, but the arrow merely bounces off its tough scales. Dariel attacks it from behind but lands too shallow of a wound. The monster tries whipping its tail at Dariel, and he tries to block it with his sword, causing it to break. Dariel takes one of the sharp pieces and uses both sting and hit abilities to throw the piece into the monster's mouth and blow apart its insides. It works, and the Blaze Death Scythe monster perishes at his feet. After that, Dariel applies the antivenom that Malika gave to Geshida's bite wound and pours bloodstaunch herb over his other wounds to stop the bleeding. With that, they return to the village. The next day, Geshida comes to the house and greets Dariel as Big Brother, saying that he owes his life to him and wishes to work under him after healing from his injuries. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's palace, one of the 4 generals returns after being forced to flee a battle against a powerful hero's party. She blames her defeat on the new assistant of the 4 generals because he did not scout the enemy properly, and failed to report that a new spearman had joined the party. Lashbaza immediately fires him, making him the 4th or 5th assistant fired since Dariel's dismissal. One of the generals, Deroy, suggests reappointing Dariel, saying he always carried out his tasks perfectly, was skilled in strategy, and also looked after their health. Lashbaza, however, hates him so much that his blood boils and refuses to consider that option. One night, Dariel asks the mayor why the village has so many empty houses. The mayor explains that beyond the village, there is a mithril mine, a highly valuable metal with mysterious properties. Humans use it to make superior quality weapons with unparalleled performance, while demons use it to make magical equipment. This led to disputes between the humans and demons for control over the mine. Since Lux Village was a common stopping place in the mithril trade route, it flourished as a lodging town. Unfortunately, when the mayor was a kid, the demons took complete control over the mine, causing the town's main revenue source to get cut off. Since then, Lux Village has slowly been declining to its ultimate death. Dariel decides to sneak into the mithril mine the next day, since he was the one in charge of the mine as a part of his duties as the assistant of the army generals. The workers there know him. He hopes that he can negotiate with at least one of them to get some mithril to bring back to Lux Village to help in its development. He puts an empty crate over his head and walks through the gate. Finding it weird there is no security to hide from, he quickly realizes that there are no soldiers at the mine. Wondering who has been put in charge of the mine since he was 5, he walks into the mine shaft, yelling for anyone there to show themselves. A group of small beings with wide faces and fluorescent facial features called knockers emerge from the darkness. They immediately recognize Dariel and excitedly greet him, and he waves back equally enthusiastically. They hug him and line up to receive pats from him individually, claiming that he is the best boss they had. They tell him that they have to supply 4 times as much mithril as before under Bashbaz's orders. They aren't treated with respect by the new management, and the soldiers that used to be deployed for their security have been withdrawn to cut costs. Their ranting is cut short when a group of demon soldiers enters the mine. Dariel quickly hides behind a large rock. The new commander yells at the knockers for not supplying enough mithril in the given time frame. Despite their begging, he threatens and orders them to have the material ready by the next day, or there will be consequences. Fed up, one of the knockers decides to rebel and hits the commander on his head. Infuriated, he orders the soldiers to kill them all. Knowing the knockers have no match against trained soldiers, Dariel interrupts the first magical spell by throwing a spade at the soldier. He then appears in front of them with a sword, wearing a mask made of cloth to hide his identity. He asks the demons to withdraw, saying he will not pursue them if they do so, but if they continue attacking, they will have to face him. The commander simply laughs at him and orders his soldiers to continue their attack. Some of the soldiers start casting spells, but Dariel knows they require the utmost concentration to cast them. As long as he can break their focus, it should be fun. However, one of the knockers tries to attack a soldier who has almost completed his ritual. Dariel thinks it is too late to save him, but the soldier kicks him back. Seeing this, Dariel realizes they have been trained as honorable soldiers, just like he was. He tries to appeal to their morals by urging them not to kill the knockers, as they are non-combatant civilians, and killing them would make them murderers, not soldiers. It seems to work until the commander attacks Dariel and threatens the soldiers with attacking, failing which, they will be burnt to ash. The soldiers chant rituals of the different elements. Dariel knows the duration of each element's ritual, allowing him to time his attacks so that he takes down the soldiers in ascending order of the ritual durations. The commander frantically casts a spell on him, but he easily blocks it with his sword and tackles the commander to the ground with his sword on his neck. Desperate to save his own life, the commander begs Dariel to spare him because he is a civilian. He explains that he had simply gotten along well with Lord Beshbaza at a ball, after which the Lord entrusted him with managing the mine. The Honorable Dariel slashes his sword down, giving the commander a bad haircut, and tells him to go back and resign from his post. The commander instantly agrees and runs off, with the soldiers following him. The grateful knockers thank Dariel for freeing them from the commander and make him their boss. Dariel returns to the village and reports to the mayor that he has regained control over the mine. In return, he pleads with the mayor to ensure protection for the knockers. And so, the mithril mine returns under human control for the first time in decades. The knockers are allowed to remain there as guides since they are familiar with the entire mine's layout. With the re-emergence of mining, people pour into Lux Village, returning it to its previous state as a bustling, prosperous town. The Demon King's army continues to face problems due to severe mismanagement under Bashbaz's leadership, and the loss of mithril supply is the final nail in the coffin. The Demon King has him dragged to the throne room to punish him for his blunders. He is mad that Bashbaza unreasonably increased the weekly quota for mithril 4 times to make a weapon that the king had repeatedly told him not to make. Due to this, the knockers were overworked and turned against the demons, something the king considers a grave mistake. He suggests bringing back Dariel to manage affairs like before. praising Bashbaza's father for being smart enough to keep good soldiers like Dariel close. Hearing his name triggers Bashbaza a lot, causing him to throw a tantrum outside the courtroom. With the village up and bustle, Malika tries asking Dariel to marry her but is interrupted by a fight between Geshida and Fatibitan, the leader of Campbelltown's adventurers. After learning that Luck's village only has 2D rank adventurers, Fatibitan mocks their abilities by saying the Mithril mine incident was just a fluke, telling them they will overtake all mine-related work. Dariel retorts by pointing out that killing the Blaze Death Scythe monster was the Campbelltown adventurer's quest, but it was entirely taken care of by him and Geshida. Fatibitan is left speechless and is forced to drop his claim over the mine. The next day, Mr. Bisfrid, a diplomat from the Central Guild, meets with Dariel. He was sent to negotiate terms with the Knockers, but they are too weary to talk to anyone except Dariel. Dariel explains that they are being cautious because they were being exploited by the demon army and so can't trust outsiders. They think of Dariel as their savior from their demon oppressors, allowing them to trust him. Bisfrid requests Dariel to be an intermediary between the Knockers and the guild during negotiations, and Dariel accepts. As soon as Dariel arrives at the mine and asks the Knockers to at least listen to what Mr. Bisfrid has to say, they immediately agree to cooperate. While leaving the mine, Dariel hears an announcement on behalf of the Demon King forgiving the Knockers for their betrayal and urges them to return and work for the demons. Dariel recognizes the voice and runs to look for it. Sure enough, the announcer is his former friend from the army, Rizet. Rizet builds a tall wall of rushing water between him and the adventurer, asking him to withdraw. Dariel tells him to calm down and reveals his identity. Realizing it's him, Rizet hugs his old friend and tells him how worried he's been for him. Dariel tells Rizet the truth, that he is actually a human. Although shocked, Rizet promises to keep it a secret. Rizet echoes everyone's sentiment when he shares how badly everything is turning out for the demons. Ever since the Demon King reprimanded Bashbaza, he's been even worse. Rizet was sent here by the Demon King to reconcile